everybody, and welcome to the Peace Rally. We are for peace. We are veterans for peace. We have been to war, and we say, no more war. We have seen it. No more war. No more war. No war with Russia. No war near Ukraine. No more war.
New York, New York.
Next up, we're going to hear from Margaret Kimberly with the Black Agenda Report, Black Alliance for Peace. We have about 8 requests, so everybody, keep it short. It's getting cold, but we want to hear from each of the groups who are represented out here today. So, Margaret Kimberly.
Power to the people! Power to the people! Thank you all so much for coming out here today. I think I'm going to try to keep my remarks simple. Who was in charge in 2014 when the United States backed a coup which overthrew the elected president of Ukraine?
Right.
Joe Biden. Joe Biden was the viceroy, in effect, of Ukraine.
Yep.
And ever since that time, he has been committed to finishing this job, this horrible job of trying to pull this country away from Russia and destroying it in the process. What have we seen? Tales of Russian troops on the border with manipulated photos. By the way, did that remind anybody else of WMD?
Oh, yeah.
Of the weapons of mass destruction and photos which allegedly showed that there were chemical weapons in Iraq which nobody ever found. So when you see this quote-unquote proof, you have to think about the Gulf of Tonkin resolution and the Viagra given to Libyan soldiers and the WMD and all of it. And there's finally some cracks. Finally, the corporate media are beginning to say to the Biden administration, this does not make sense. That there will be crisis actors in Ukraine and Russia will manufacture something. The manufacturing will be in Washington. So there is nothing good about U.S. interventions, ever. The U.S. and NATO are destructive forces in the world. So I'm going to read very briefly from a Black Alliance for Peace statement, just the last few paragraphs. Whatever the explanation, it is clear that for African people, the U.S., NATO, EU axis of domination continues to represent the greatest threat to peace, human rights, and social justice on the planet today. That is why it's so absurd to see the Black misleadership class lining up to demonstrate their support for war with Russia, while Black people still face the structural violence of capitalism and the terror of state violence from the domestic army occupying our communities that are referred to as the police. BAP says it is irrational for any African to embrace the agenda of empire by giving credence to or legitimacy to the crude mobilization of public opinion for conflict on behalf of NATO, a structure created to perpetuate white power and the colonial capitalist project. We are clear. We say once again, not one drop of blood from Black workers, the colonized and nationally oppressed, in defense of the U.S. capitalist oligarchy. And that is who is in charge of this effort, this very, very dangerous effort that brings this country into conflict with another nuclear power. So we say no to NATO expansion, yes to diplomacy, yes to international law, and we oppose this effort. No war on Russia, no to NATO. Thank you very much.
You know where we are.
New York.
There's enormous unity in saying no to NATO, no to war, and we need the money for jobs and health care and schools right here.
And
not another mass destruction.